What's going on, guys? Ronan Charizard here. I've got a special announcement. I'm going to be starting a social media for the channel. After much thought, I've decided to go with a Twitter. I won't be starting any more than this, as I don't want to be overloaded with trying to manage too much, because it is just me doing it all. I also don't use social media that often, so getting used to it is going to be something that I'm going to have to commit to. But anyway, let's get into today's episode. Last time, we saw Jessy part ways with Wobbuffet after battling the Iron Mask Marauder with her new The Leap. Then, after Loudred evolved into Exploud and it wouldn't listen to her, she added a Spheal to her team. As she arrived in Sootopolis City, we saw Domino become a passenger on Team Magma's ship and James enter the Lily Cove contest in which his Meditite evolved into Medicham, concluding with the leader of Team Magma, Maxie, offering Butch and Cassidy a position with his organization. Now, let's see where these lines of multiple events will lead into today's episode. We pick up with Jessy arriving in Sootopolis City. Once she arrives, she heads immediately for the gym and meets its leader, Juan. Juan is happy to meet Jessy and is intrigued to have a battle with her. He informs her that they will have a 5-on-5 Pokemon battle each. Their first battle will be a double battle, and if Jessy can clear the battle then, they will move on to a 3-on-3 singles with the remaining Pokemon. Jessy accepts these terms, and they start the battle. Juan leads with his Masquerain and his Pelipper. Jessy recognizes that these two are flying types dueled with Bug and Water, so she sends in Spheal and Lileep. The battle is a very unusual battle for Jessy. Juan was a Pokemon coordinator in a past life, and as a result, he has developed a battle style that uses power with elegance. But Jessy's Lileep has the ability of Storm Drain. This makes all of Juan's water-type attacks useless, and Lileep also has the move Ingrain. This makes it so Jessy can stall Juan out. Jessy is able to put down Masquerain with Spheal and its Ice Ball, but Spheal is taken out by Pelipper's Steel Wing. Lileep is able to put down Pelipper with an Ancient Power, bringing an end to the double battle. Juan is impressed that Jessy was able to use Lileep to such avail, but Jessy thinks to herself she has to be careful. Though he doesn't know it, that was just dumb luck. She didn't know Lileep had the ability of Storm Drain. Jessy recalls Lileep to save it for later. Juan sends in his next Pokemon, Staryu. Jessy sends in Claydol. She knows that it's at a disadvantage, but she hopes that it'll be enough to take down Staryu. Though Claydol is tough, the type advantage is too much, and it falls to Staryu after causing minimal damage. Jessy then sends in Seviper. The Viper Pokemon does take a hit, but it manages to put the star Pokemon down with the Poison Tail. Juan is down to 2 Pokemon and decides to send in his Gorbis. Jessy decides to leave in Seviper. The 2 Serpent Pokemon start the battle, but every time Jessy orders an attack, Gorbis just dives into the water. This is frustrating Seviper, and Juan can see it, and he uses it to his advantage, continuing the same strategy until Seviper gets fed up with the dodging and heads into the water after Gorbis. Juan is surprised. He didn't think Seviper could swim. Jessy is just surprised, as she didn't either. But Seviper seems to have it down, and now that Gorbis' advantage is gone, it's forced into an actual battle. But it's no pushover, and in the end, Seviper and Gorbis collide with the Poison Tail and a Water Pulse that results in a mini explosion in the water. When the water settles, both Pokemon float to the surface, knocked out. Juan tells Jessy she is stronger than he gave her credit for. Her combinations have been that of a top coordinator, but his next Pokemon won't be a pushover, as he sends in his Milotic. Jessy has never seen a Milotic before. She wants to use Exploud, but flashes back to when it evolved, then she chooses to go with the safer option. She sends back in Lileep. Lileep is practically new, as it has recovered basically all the damage from its prior battle. But now that Juan knows it has the Storm Drain ability, he won't be using water moves. The battle starts. Jessy calls for an Ingrain, while Juan calls for a Twister. It is powerful, and you can tell that Lilip felt it. Jessy knows that Lilip took more damage than it got back with the ingrain. She figures she won't be able to stall the battle out. Juan calls for another twister, and Jessy counters it with an ancient power. It deflects the twister somewhat, but Lilip still takes damage. She knows the next move will be Lilip's last. As Juan calls for another twister, Jessy orders a toxic. It connects, but so does the twister, knocking out Lilip. Jessy is down to her final Pokemon, Exploud. Though it doesn't listen to her, if it can hold on long enough, then maybe Toxic can do its job. Jessy sends in Exploud. The sound Pokemon stares down Milotic. Juan gives Jessy the first move. Jessy orders a Supersonic, but Exploud just stands there. So Juan orders a Water Pulse, and Exploud just takes it, like it's sizing up Milotic. Then it attacks with the Brick Break, repeatedly, with Milotic dotted each one. All the while, Toxic is taking effect more and more, and Jessy can see it. Exploud, frustrated, jumps into the water after Milotic, but it's pushed out when it gets caught in a twister. When Milotic surfaces, Jessy can tell that it's losing health fast, and she thinks, almost there. But Juan calls for recovery. This catches Jessy off guard. Now Milotic has some of its health back, and this will make the battle last longer. Things are no longer in Jessy's favor. Jessy then orders another Supersonic, but Exploud uses Brick Break instead. Juan then orders a Hydro Pump. As it rushes in, Jessy orders Exploud to counter with the Brick Break, but it just stands there. But then it lets out a loud scream. It breaks through the Hydro Pump and connects with Milotic. Jessy pulls out her Pokédex and learned that the move was Hyper Voice. Now, Milotic is starting to feel the effects of Toxic. Juan calls for another recovery, but it's not as effective. Jessy calls for another Hyper Voice, and to her surprise, Exploud listens. Juan tells Milotic to dive into the water, but it doesn't matter with the Hyper Voice cutting through the water, hitting Milotic. This is enough to force it out of the water and onto the land. Unfortunately, this is not enough to knock it out, and Juan calls for another recovery. But Milotic is moving slow, and Exploud rushes in to hit Milotic with a Brick Break that connects. But Jessy didn't order it. Milotic then falls to the poison. This isn't enough for Exploud, as it continues to attack Milotic until Jessy recalls it. Juan doesn't like the brutality of Exploud and tells Jessy she needs to train it better, as it is unsportsmanlike to attack an opponent that is already down. But even though Juan disapproves of how Jessy won, she still won, and he gives her the Rain Badge. Jessy apologizes for her Exploud and takes her leave. Later at the Pokemon Center, all Jessy can think about is how Exploud acted during the battle. She can't figure out. Sure, Loudred was always aggressive, but it listened. But now that it evolved, it refuses to even acknowledge her. Jessy doesn't know what to do, but head to the next gym in Moss Deep City. So the next morning, she boards a boat, bound for there. Now, we pick up with James. He's been at sea for about a week now, and comes across one of the many islands in the Hoenn region that have been settled, and to his luck, there seems to be a contest hall here, and he chooses to enter. During James's time on the ocean, he focused on his training with Dusclops. James has learned that it enjoys putting on a show for people, and with its mischievous nature, it seeks as much attention from everyone that it can get. So James thought he would use it to his advantage, and surprisingly, it works. Him and Dusclops aren't in perfect sync, but it will at least listen to him. This allows James once again to make it to the finals, but his opponent here is May, and she is going for her 5th ribbon. This battle sees May use her Combuskin against James's Dusclops. James again fails to capture the ribbon, but he is liking the whole contest battling thing more and more. So now that James and Dusclops are somewhat in sync, James decides to head to Moss Deep City and the site of his 7th badge. Now, at last, we switch over to Domino. Hours ago, Maxie and his second-in-command Tabitha headed out several hours ago by helicopter. Their destination was Mount Pyre, so Domino decides to look around the Magma ship. Domino manages to gain access to the main lab. After a while of decrypting passwords and encrypted files, she manages to get in. But there is something odd about the files that she is viewing. They seem to be familiar. They are very similar to some of the research that Team Rocket was conducting at the Lake of Rage in Johto and in the Orange Islands. Domino thinks to herself, there's only one person this research can belong to. Namba. Then Domino clicks on a file marked Containment Alpha. She can't believe it. Domino then proceeds to download the files, just as she hears the door, and she takes cover. Someone walks in. It's Namba, and he's not alone. Maxie, Tabitha, and 2 familiar faces as well. Butch and Cassidy. Domino can't believe what she's seeing. The 2 Team Rocket members here defected to the other side. This enrages Domino, but she is outnumbered and is forced to sneak away reluctantly. On her way out, she bumps into someone, an individual that doesn't seem to be in alliance with Team, but is dressed like them. Domino makes her escape, unsure what her next move is. And that's it for this episode. Man, things are heating up. What do you guys think about today's episode? What do you think about Jesse's win at the SOOTOPOLIS gym? How about James and his contest performances? And of course, how about Butch and Cassidy joining Team Magma? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked today's episode, please drop a like and also hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on any future content. Also, don't forget to turn on the notifications. And lastly, if you want to talk with everyone else in the Ronin clan, please join the Discord with the link in the description below. I will see you in the next video.